jank stuff that didn't make any sense to you? Like, why does this dagger make me do dancer stuff?
Yeah. All the fucking weapons that do crazy shit that you don't want it to do.
Which are amazing. I love them.
I hate it. What's funny is they, in Final Fantasy VI, like, it has weapons that do crazy shit, but like they also just hit normally, so they don't like screw you up.
No, every time you use this weapon, I'm gonna make you cast a random white magic. Except it's not random, it actually just does them all in order until you loop back around again.
Yes, I hate that. I definitely hated that. But, well, okay, so yeah.
But it's amazing.
In retrospect, I would say I probably like Final Fantasy VII better than 5. Because I mean, what's the worst thing about Final Fantasy VII? The mini games.
God,
I
Final
don't mind
Fantasy
them.
V never forced a snowboarding mini game on me to make me be able to get to the final dungeon.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a downside.
Yeah.
But I like the materia system. Although it makes all the characters kind of samey. Although the same thing happened in Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah.
By the end,
And
none of the
5,
characters'
all the
special
characters are kind of
abilities.
samey too, but because of the way the job system works, you can choose how you want your characters to be. A lot easier than these other games could.
Yeah, no, it's got that going for it.
Yeah.
I'll grant you that.
The job system's great. Anyway, welcome to the Vomitorium. As always, I am your host, The Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer. How you doing today?
Great. Talking about Final Fantasy for once.
Yeah, for once. It's honestly that's in the backup of the things we could talk about. There is something related to that, but I have it at the end of the lineup because I'm not going to put our viewers through that type of hell. So, to start us out, interesting story. I was just looking up random video game news outside of the normal places because I was trying to see if there was anything interesting to talk about, and I actually saw something on Fox News. And I'm like, why is Fox News talking about video games? And it turns out a Goodwill worker found a very rare, only 13 in existence, $10,000 Atari video game cartridge in their box of donations.
What is it? Like
Air Raid.
ET or something?
No, it's Air Raid.
What is it? Air Raid.
Yeah, it's weird too because it has like this special like T shape at the top of the cartridge because of the way the game worked, and it almost looks like a children's pail like you would use in a sandbox, and it was there. I think the reason I saw it is because it's local news to me. It's North Texas, so it would have just popped up like Google would have been like, hey, this might be interesting to you. Fucking Google, trying to tell me what I'm interested in, even if you're right. And there's only 13 known copies in existence of this game, and they found it. And because there's only 13 known copies, and it's such an old system, it's worth. Wait, they have the exact worth or the estimate in here. I'm looking for it. Here it is: $10,590.79.
Why does it have a handle on the cartridge? That is the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I've never seen this before.
Yeah, it's actually what really let them stick out, and they were able to find the game because of that, because it just looks so unique. You're like, oh, I could tell that this is an Atari game. This has to be rare. It's probably worth some money. We need to pull this out of the donations bin.
Yeah. Well, here's something interesting. So this is a new story? Like this just happened?
I'm looking when this headline went off. I probably missed it before. This story was published 11 hours ago.
Wow. So I just happened to do a search for Air Raid Atari. Another person found, or I guess discovered that he had already, a copy of this game back in 2010, like 11 years ago. And it says Tanner Sandlin of Austin, Texas, recognized that one of the games that he had owned for 30 years was very rare and sold it in 2010 for $31,000. So it's apparently gone down in value.
Well, probably because they found out there's more. They probably thought that it was sub 13 at that time, and now that they know that there's at least 13 in existence, that drives the value down. It's slightly less rare.
Yeah. I guess so. Now this one says that I thought I saw that this was the 13th one discovered somewhere on this article. Maybe it was the 12th one or something. But anyway, interesting. yeah, I guess as they discover more and more of this very rare game, I guess the value will go down.
Mm-hmm. It was like, what was it? I think it was watching, I think it was Jackie Chan Adventures. And I think, like, Toru was handling these two very rare vases. There's only two of them in all of existence, and he accidentally drops one. But all that did was drive up the price of the vase because now it's a one-of-a-kind vase.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you know why I bet? Man, no, I wish I'd seen this. They put it on auction on Goodwill's website.
But they're supposed to do that for high-value things they find so that the money is supposed to go to good plays. Doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, but I bet a lot of people. I bet a lot of people didn't see it there.
Yeah.
I bet if they put it on eBay, it would get a higher price.
Yeah, but I mean, Goodwill does this all the time. People should just be aware that they do stuff on Goodwill.
I guess so. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah, interestingly, it's weird. It seems to go up and down. I mean, I guess it's just whoever happens to see it, but
it might have a lot to do with availability too, right? Like even if there's 13,
yeah.
If there's somebody that you know is not going to get rid of it, then suddenly it's effectively that's not on the market. But if somebody dies and then it falls into an estate sale, that's suddenly on the market again. So even if there's 13 in existence, at any point in time, there might only be effectively 7 because those are the only ones circulating.
Yeah. But I do see, like, somebody sold one on eBay for only $3,500 in 2011, but in 2012, somebody sold one for $33,000. So it's just like random. Very strange. Well, that's cool. Why the hell does it have a handle? I don't even understand that.
I never owned the game.
Did people think it would be difficult to get out of the?
Well, I don't know. There's like this little black dot in the handle. I don't know what they were trying to do with this thing in general.
Yeah, it's got like it's a hole.
Yeah.
A little hole in the handle. But yeah, it looks like it's about that. It's about that thick of a handle. Maybe that thick.
Yeah, like a child's pail that you'd use for shoveling sand in a sandbox or something.
Yeah, it almost looks more like a shovel.
Yeah,
shaped like a shovel. Weird. Yeah, I guess this keeps happening. I see another story from 2012. Family unearths rare Atari game from storage. Well, why did they only make like a couple dozen of them?
I do not know. You're going to have to ask Menavision, which probably doesn't exist anymore. I mean, there's not even a Wikipedia thing for Menavision. If you go to Air Raid and then there's like a little hyperlink for the developer in the bottom, all it does is reload the Air Raid page because it links you back to the same page you're on. This may also be, the only game released by the company according to the Wikipedia page. So I would assume this company doesn't exist anymore.
Interesting. I'm sure it doesn't.
Yeah, this was probably, because indie development was the norm back then, not the exception to the rule. This was probably just a small indie developer, which would have to be with a name like Menavision. That's a stupid fucking name for a developer. Small independent developer made their freaking Atari game, never hit off the ground, which is why they only printed so many in their limited distribution. Failed to become a successful development group, fell apart, and now years later, freaking 33 years later, whatever, who knows, we're freaking finding them, and they're super valuable.
Yeah.
It's like those paintings that are only worth anything after the artist dies.
Mm-hmm. There was another story about a video game where they only made like 3,000 copies of it or something. I can't remember.
That's way more than these guys made.
Well, yeah, I can see that. Wonder how people found them.
I don't know.
They must have just been in like one store back in 1982. People just happened to pick them up. Weird.
There's absolutely no explanation for why it has that handle either.
I know, I see that. Like, what? What is happening?
It was probably because
well, you didn't have
it was for something else. Like, it was planned for something else, and these guys got it on the cheap for when they were printing their game, if it was such a limited run.
Yeah. Yeah, and you didn't need to have permission from Atari. They didn't do the thing that Nintendo did where you had to get their... In fact, did Nintendo actually manufacture all of the cartridges themselves?
I believe so. Which, there were people that skirt around it. You could tell when something was not a Nintendo cartridge. But,
yeah, it was slightly shaped differently usually.
And it had the official Nintendo seal of approval.
Yeah.
Which is a little gold foil thing that was printed onto the games.
Mm-hmm. Is that how Nintendo works today? Like when you order a little cartridge for a Switch, does Nintendo manufacture all of those?
I really don't know. I know Nintendo actually has been getting people yelling at them, and current president Furukawa has responded because people have been citing claims to not just Nintendo, but like all of these companies, Amazon, Apple, Dell, Gap, Google, about the forced Uyghur labor camps in China where a lot of this stuff is being made. And the Nintendo president came out, and Furukawa has said that the company has not found any instances of forced Uyghur labor in its supply chains. Now, I don't know how you could be 100% certain about that, but that sounds like a deniability claim, if anything, to me. Like, you know, we don't know, so we can't handle it, you know.
I'm surprised that a Japanese company would use Chinese manufacturing.
Yeah, I am too.
Last I checked, they didn't like each other very much. I mean, I guess America doesn't like China very much either. But...
all chips come from China. Mostly from Taiwan, but to get stuff from Taiwan, you have to go through China.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. That's weird.
Yeah?
I didn't know that. Like, they don't have to. It's just because they're cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you
but that's
could
where all
manufacture
chips come from
these
China,
things.
because they're cheap.
Yeah, yeah. You could manufacture these things in Japan or the United States.
Yeah, but for like 10 times the price.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the problem. Like, when you're looking at a difference, it's like an order of magnitude. People are like, well, maybe it's worth putting up with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know how you... I mean, I don't know how you prevent the questionable labor practices without having someone from the company monitoring the factory 24/7.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I don't know if they're doing that. Or...
dealing with the cost and making it your own country.
Yeah. So you think it's plausible deniability? Like they're not aware. But
I just wish India would get their shit together. It would cost twice as much, but they have access to a lot of the same resources. They have a lot of people that could work over there who are all currently struggling in poverty. There's a lot of just like people living on the streets in India because just the sheer amount of people that they have. Like if they just got their shit together and did manufacturing there, we'd be paying twice as much, but it'd be a lot more ethical.
I thought for a while they were ramping up manufacturing in India, but apparently not.
Yeah.
And
One of
for
the
a while,
problems is
we were
that
doing a lot of.
India is one of the most actually probably is the most bureaucratic country on the entire planet. And nothing gets done unless it's signed in triplicate, buried for 4 years, dug up, and then also then signed again in somebody else's blood.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Well, that's basically the problem that we have in the United States. That's why it's so damn expensive here. It's not necessarily that labor is more expensive. You could still pay minimum wage, but the problem is all of the red tape, all the government bureaucracy that you have to go through.
I mean, compared to what they're paying the people in China, minimum wage is pretty damn expensive. Even at the lowest end of like $7.25.
I don't know.
I mean, some of these people are barely making $1 a day. But with their cost of living and the fact that you've got like 10 people living together in like the same area, that's not that bad, you know?
Yeah. Yep. But then we wouldn't have to be shipping it across the sea.
Yeah.
They needed to put more tariffs on China. Trump needed to put more tariffs before he left office. Well. So at the moment, as far as Nintendo knows, nothing bad's happening now.
Yeah, as far as they know, that's the official response from them. I don't know how believable it is, but that is their response. I don't disbelieve it, because they do have like this really long established CSR procurement policies, which is, corporate social responsibility, right? And they've always made sure that prison labor and forced labor wasn't used for their stuff. So if anybody's going to be believable on this, like they've done an investigation and they don't find the use, it's probably Nintendo. And I wouldn't be surprised if for the people that actually really care about this, China was making sure that that type of forced labor wasn't being used on their products because they don't want to lose that income. That was actually the case.
Yeah. Hey, Wise Guys Entertainment.
Yeah.
Welcome. Well, I'm still going to buy Nintendo products. Sad to say. Because what are the other... What other option do we have, really?
We could go outside and spin a hoop with a stick.
There you go. That hoop with a stick is probably manufactured in China.
Oh, damn it. I could just make one myself. Why am I buying it?
Yeah. Well, anything new going on with the Switch? I guess not. We talked about that.
Yeah, well, the marketing manager came out and said the new Switch OLED isn't for everyone. And my response to that was, no shit.
Like, not for anyone that already has a Switch, because it's virtually the same.
Well, that's what they said. It's like, stick with the current one if you're not digging the screen, was basically the exact quote that came out of their mouth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that means we're kind of in the same place as we were 2 days ago before they announced it.
Yeah.
So what do you got to complain about? We didn't have a Switch Pro 2 days ago, and we don't have a Switch Pro today.
Oh man, I loved watching all these memes though, because like on my Facebook and stuff, everybody I know who's into games was memeing about, like the Anakin and Padme meme that's popular right now. Where, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like Anakin was Nintendo's, we're going to release a new Switch model. And then the Padme was like, it'll be more powerful, right? It'll be more powerful, right? And I'm just laughing at all of them because like I've been adamant for months since it started, the rumor came out, that they were not going to be releasing whatever the equivalent of the Switch Pro that people were hoping for was going to be. It's like, they're probably doing something with those screens, but they ain't making a Switch Pro. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't...
I mean, you were right. I believed they would. I couldn't understand why they wouldn't. I couldn't.
Because it's Nintendo.
I just couldn't understand it. I know, but I
mean, how long have we been dealing with Nintendo now?
Yeah, but I mean, just I know it's not their MO, but the 3DS seemed to be a departure from their MO. With the new 3DS, it seemed like, oh, maybe this is a new trend, but no, that was just a fluke.
There is actually a lot of backlash on the new 3DS as well, like from people all over. Oh. So, I mean, it's still sold okay, but yeah, there was a lot of backlash to it.
Basically, because there were games that were exclusive to that.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, so I got one finally just today. Actually, I played with Peaches. She had one, and I have to say the screen is better. The 3D effect is a lot better, and I guess it tracks your head as you move around, so that the 3D effect follows you around. So I will have to play some new 3DS exclusive games and see what I think about them.
Yeah.
Although what was the one that you said worked for both but didn't work very well with the old one?
Hyrule Warriors works way better on the new 3DS than it does on the original. In fact, there are some of the side missions that, because of like the enemy load up problems and stuff from the limited RAM, just they become basically unplayable.
Right, I remember. Yeah, I had that for the 3DS. Yeah. Although I'm surprised, like, didn't it? I thought it came out before the new 3DS even existed.
It was definitely planned for it. It came out because we've been over this before. It came out after the new 3DS launched in Japan, but they got it before we did.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I only ever played it on the old one, and yes, while it was enjoyable, and for the most part was fine, there were definitely missions that were literally impossible due to the fact that the system was just not powerful enough.
Yeah.
Or it was just like, I
can't. They should have had a note that says, "Don't play this on the normal 3DS."
Yeah. Yeah, because they had missions where it was like, you have to defeat 1,000 enemies in 5 minutes or something, and it was like 1,000 enemies don't show up on the screen. Like, you can't possibly win. But I imagine they do in the new one, which was an interesting transition to the Switch, because the version of Hyrule Warriors on the Switch, while technically the same version, was way easier.
Yeah,
it's just like, wow, this is easier
in like every way.
Yeah. Just because most of the missions were about defeating as many enemies as you could, and when it can display hundreds and hundreds on the screen, it makes it extremely easy.
Yeah. Well, another big problem too, part of the backlash was in the States, which may also be why they're trying to keep the size of the Switch roughly the same for each of the models. And their original market research was that the 3DS XL outsold the normal 3DS, which is probably factually true. But there are other reasons for that. And one of the reasons might be that the 3DS XL became a lot more widely available than the 3DS as the actual growth of purchasing went up, right? It was ramped up because nobody was an early adopter except for like a few of us that ended up with that ambassador program and stuff. Because I got one right away. I think you did too. You were in the ambassador program, right? But that whole program exists because very few people were early adopters of the 3DS. Most of the people that ended up getting the game were after the price drop, and then also after the XL came out. So that's one reason why it outsold. It was more widely available as people were actually buying the system. So due to their market data, they thought the 3DS XL was just a more popular version of the system. And when the new 3DS came out, thinking, oh, well, Americans have bigger hands. Of course, that's the reason why they want the XL.
Yeah.
They only had the new 3DS XL in the United States, and they released it that way. Reggie came out with his huge new 3DS XL, and then there were people like me like, what the fuck? I want the normal size one. And apparently, I wasn't alone. There was a huge group of people like, the thing doesn't fit in my pockets. What do you want me to do? Carry a woman's purse around just so I can play that thing?
Yeah.
And then they eventually sold these, but they only got these in bundles. So I had to get this with the Happy Home Academy, or some people had to get it with like Pokemon or whatever. They didn't sell these individually. You had to get them with a bundle. So also skew the data, the new 3DS XL still sold way better than the regular new 3DS, but it was more easily available.
Well, I still say if they were to come out with a Switch XL, that's what I think they should do. Come out with this. Well, I guess it would be a problem with Joy-Con compatibility, but if they did come out with a Switch, it would be great if it had a bigger screen. But the more important thing would be upgraded hardware.
What I want is a real Switch Lite, not the thing that they gave us. That is like your kid's Switch, which is actually worse because if the Joy-Cons break, you actually have to send the whole thing in to get fixed. You can't just switch them out. But I'm talking like I was saying, something the size of a phone. I don't care if it has lower resolution. I just want to play the game on something that I can actually put in my pocket and take with me. An actual mobile Switch.
Yeah. There's no reason for it to have a lower resolution, though.
No, because
I mean,
the way screens are now, you could just put it down.
Yeah.
But it's
my phone has a higher resolution than the Switch.
This is like, I don't know what this OLED screen is, but it's like 1080 or something. It's stupidly high.
Yeah. I don't know either, but it's like I don't know if it's 4K, but it's probably close to it.
Yeah. But it's Nintendo, so like if the trade-off is I have to have a lower resolution because it's Nintendo, I don't care. I never had a problem playing the 3DS. I just want to be able to take the games actually with me on the go, instead of having to have like a backpack or something with me to fully carry my my Switch around.
And I want to be able to play Final Fantasy VII Remake and The Last of Us 2, my two favorite games in the world, on my Switch.
Oh, well, that's not going to happen. Not even because of power problems, but because of Sony. Go complain to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those aren't my two favorite games. But anyway.
Final Fantasy VII Remake. You know, the director came out, which is not Nomura. A lot of people don't understand. He did start the project. He's the one that oversees the project because he's the director of the Final Fantasy division, but he's not the director of the game. They have to assign a individual person to that. But the director came out talking about the remake and Integrate and why Yuffie got a DLC over Vincent. And it's like, why do you have to explain this? Of course, Vincent is still asleep. He is a sleepy boy. You can get Yuffie way earlier in the game than you can get Vincent, even going back to the original version. Why, like, obviously, if you were going to do this stuff in order, you would pull her out first. I don't understand why everybody's complaining. I know Vincent is a more beloved character for some fucking reason. I don't dislike him. I think he's actually a fine character, but it's because he was the edgy boy during the time where edgy boys were popular.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why Cloud was popular, right?
Well, I think people think Cloud's edgier than he actually is, right? Like, because Cloud is too cool for school. He's not actually, like, the edge, right? And then Cloud, too cool for school because it was, like, his misinterpretation of Zack's personality, right? This is what he thought a hero was. Because he basically not even from his own fault. If you actually play through the whole game and pay attention to the story, the experiments had a lot to do with it. But after Zack's death and the trauma, he adapted and adopted Zack's personality into him. But it wasn't actually Zack's personality. It was Cloud's twisted interpretation of his hero's personality. And that's why he was kind of just like, too cool for school. But Vincent was actually, from what most people thought, and it's because he wore dark colors and blood had a lot to do with his theme, and he turned into monsters. He was like the edge character. I'm my own monster. Yeah. But, like, it's also just people's interpretation of these characters, because neither of these characters are the way most people think they are. That's my problem with, like, the fans of Final Fantasy VII. People think Cloud's an emo character, but he's not at all. People think Vincent's an emo character, but he's not at all.
Yeah, Cloud's basically schizophrenic.
Yes. More so he's going through, like, PTSD, but it's got, like, schizophrenia symptoms because of the experiments that were put onto him, too.
Yeah.
And he has, like, actually perfectly reasonable excuses for everything he goes through.
Yeah. He thinks he lived through things that he didn't.
Yeah.
That actually Zack did. And so he even remembers the wrong. So
yeah. And part of it's because of the joint experiment from when they were kidnapped and had the Mako operations done to them.
Mm-hmm. Well, so here's what I don't understand. I still don't understand how they're releasing this thing.
I don't
because in intergrade, right? That's like chapter 1.333.
Yeah, it's Yuffie.
1 1/3
set up with Cloud, the party and stuff like that. It's how she meets up with them before she actually does.
But they only release that on PlayStation 5, right?
Yes.
So how does that? Can you transfer your info? What if you played the first part on PlayStation 4?
Oh, you get a free upgrade of that game. That game, they're not charging you to upgrade that game. If you already own it on PS4 and you own a PS5, you get it for free, and your save data does carry over from the cloud.
Okay.
You still have to buy a new console for it. That's a bad thing, but
Intergrade does use the same save data, right?
Yes.
Okay. That was confusing to me because I'm just like...
And I think they are trying to make Intergrade backwards compatible. It was they were just rushing it to get it out, and then they're working to also put it on PlayStation 4. But that also might just be because of the backlash from... And
now they're saying Chapter 2... Yeah. Now they're saying Chapter 2 is going to be completely different? Like a practically different game?
Yeah. Yeah, Final Fantasy VII. Some people are trying to say it's turning into a bigger mess than Kingdom Hearts. But I would like to rewind you back in time and explain that Final Fantasy VII was always a bigger mess than Kingdom Hearts. Because the first game, as confusing as it can be, was still pretty solid on its own. No problem following things if you played through it more than once, right? Most people, like, I had no problem playing it through the first time, but if you play through it twice, you'll pretty much pick up on everything that you missed, right? You talking about Final Fantasy? Yes. You missed the parts of the show when we weren't, but this is actually part of the news that of today.
Mm-hmm.
But but it was always
all the
other stuff they added. Advent Children. Before Advent Children, there was like 3 different mobile games that you could only play in Japan on their stupid mobile phones. Then there was Dirge of Cerberus, Crisis Core, and a lot of this stuff retroactively changed information about the previous titles that were released before it.
It was all just a cash grab. They're like, "Ooh, Final Fantasy VII is very popular. Let's do more of that."
So people shouldn't be surprised
in everything
when they say that the remake Part 2 is going to be a completely different game than the remake Part 1. If anything, I'd be surprised if they actually did something consistent with Final Fantasy VII for a change.
Mm-hmm. Oh well.
Yeah.
What was the news that we were originally talking about?
Oh, Air
Completely
Raid.
forgotten.
The $10,000
No,
Atari cartridge.
no, related to Final Fantasy.
Oh, it's the fact that Yuffie got a DLC over Vincent.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I don't
Because
think you get to
reasons.
any of those characters at this point in the story in the original, do you?
No.
Neither of
I
them.
think it's like disc 2 is when you really get
Yeah.
them.
It's all a cash grab, I'm telling you.
Yeah. And not a very good one.
Yeah.
Because Vincent's
So John Dillard, welcome. And I was talking about John to my mom today.
That's weird.
Because we were talking about the fact that that there apparently will still be a Cyberfrog children's book at some point in the future. It was confirmed by Ethan Van Sciver, but still no word on an actual date. However, did you hear the other news about the comic book industry?
That it's dying out here in the United States?
Well, yes, but Comicsgate isn't. It's alive and well. Yeah. Apparently, let me...
Why does this show not have a segment talking about Raid Shadow Legends? Because A, they're actually pretty good at not doing anything that gets them in the news. I haven't seen any complaints about Raid Shadow Legends yet. And B, they're not paying us to promote their product.
Mm-hmm. But if they would like to...
Oh, dude, I would take that ad spot in a second. Like...
Yeah, absolutely. Give Metal a call. So have you heard about the latest juicy tidbit about Comicsgate?
No, I don't follow the news in Comicsgate. I'm too busy working on stuff.
Do you know of... Have you ever heard the name of famed Canadian comic book artist Dale Keown?
No, I don't think so.
Well, then never mind. We might as well not talk about it. Just kidding. Dale Keown, a few months back, maybe 6 months ago, did a variant cover for Cyberfrog for Ethan Van Sciver. And he is a well-known... Basically, here's the thing. Have you ever heard of the Incredible Hulk?
Yes. Just a little bit.
If you have seen any rendition of the Incredible Hulk from the last, I don't know, 20 years, it was probably Dale Keown.
Oh, okay.
Like if you
hate
picture the Incredible Hulk, you probably hate his work.
Yeah. Oh, I hate Hulk. Not just the writing, like I hate the way he's drawn in the current stuff too, because he is like exploding with muscle, not like in a way that makes him look muscular, in a way that looks like his body's going to fall apart any second.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the look that Dale Keown gave to him. So basically, he's. I think what most people think of when they think of the Incredible Hulk is probably a Dale Keown condition. Anyway, he had a conversation. I think it was live with Ethan Van Sciver, and then had a private conversation afterwards on his Comic Artist Pro Secrets YouTube channel. And they've decided that All Caps Comics, Ethan's publishing company, is going to be publishing Pit by Dale Keown. So
yeah, that's what they're bringing up.
It's official.
Too, which I'm looking up Pit, and yes, I could definitely tell this is the same person who's been drawing Hulk, because the character literally looks the same. But if he was like a black metal singer.
So it's official. Dale Keown has joined Comicsgate, and the NPCs are freaking the fuck out. They're all saying, I never liked his art anyway. He sucks, blah, blah, blah. Like,
well, I mean, if the story's good, I'll read it, because I care about the story way more than the art. But I have to say, even looking at that cover, that art is a turn off to me. Like I definitely wouldn't be getting it for the art.
Yeah. Well, you are actually a legitimate critic who's actually judging it on the merits. But yeah, people are freaking out. And I'll tell you that it's like dominoes. They're gonna keep falling one after the other. There's gonna be more and more artists because they can't make a living. They cannot make a living doing American mainstream comics.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about the report that came out last week.
Yeah.
And how American comic book sales were down 20%. I mean, granted, there's COVID
too, right? That actually really doesn't matter in this case, right? Unless you're looking like maybe your future, right? You're trying to think about growth, because maybe you're somebody who's trying to get an editorial job eventually. That's where you actually start making the money. And if sales are down, then you're not going to be making money in editorial. But even if sales were up, the people who work at these places, outside of like creating a new character and getting royalties, don't get paid shit. They make less than some minimum wage workers do, right? Like your survivability in the indie market, even though the indie market is just a small little hair of the total like net worth of the industry, at least if you're selling something, you're making your money, right? You're getting your share of it, and you can actually possibly make a living off of it. You're not making a living in these major comic book companies unless you're like a known entity. Most of the people, like, they've got 6 people sharing an apartment together because they have to live in the city for some reason.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, they go by page rates, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on how quickly. So technically, because they're contractors, they could be making less than minimum wage, depending on how fast they can do these pages. They could legally be making less than minimum wage because they don't get paid by the hour.
They get paid on output.
So, yeah, that's pretty sad. But yeah, I mean,
you market demand, right? Like, you make your thing, whatever you can sell, you sell, and you cover like any profit after printing and delivering and stuff like that. You get it's yours.
Exactly. Yeah, and I can't wait for Ethan to do that kids book, because I bet that's going to be a huge seller, and John's going to get a huge chunk of that profit, I'm sure. Would be awesome. But yeah, I was just saying, I know we already talked about this, but just to reiterate that American comic book sales dropped 20% last year, and yet the industry as a whole, which was mostly manga, and I guess some
BDs for the in France. The Italian scene is actually doing fairly good too, but France saw like I think a 10% growth in just its own area.
Yeah. Well, the industry as a whole went up 6% in the United States. So I mean, United States sales of comics, which is more and more almost all manga, went up 6% despite a huge chunk. Basically, by my calculations, in 2019, the American comic book industry was 44% market share, and that dropped to 33% last year. And despite that huge drop, the industry still went up.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's even that high.
There's no excuse for sales to be dropping like that when clearly there's demand, just not demand for their shit.
There's perfect excuse for it, right? One, outside of trade paperbacks, right, and original graphic novels, the only place you can really get American comic books is in comic book stores, which, as we know, have been closing rapidly for years now. But how many do you think survived COVID?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
We should ask Peter Savetti.
Yeah.
Because
he probably has actual data on that, like legit numbers. Yeah.
Like he actually I mean, he's basically his own diamond. He ships directly to the stores, so he has a list, and I'm sure it keeps shrinking year after year after year.
But while like manga, well, you can go to Barnes and Noble and get manga. They actually shrunk the trade paperback section for comics to put more manga on the shelves.
Yeah. I've seen those videos and pictures of people in like Barnes and Noble. There's just shelves and
Oh,
shelves
dude, I
and
love
shelves
going
of
there and
manga.
just like checking it out. Like, ooh, what's here today?
Yeah, I should go. I don't even know where there's a Barnes and Noble near me. But I
Probably a
mean, I have to
stone's throw.
say,
Those things are everywhere.
so I started reading. This is book 3, but I've started reading book 1 of One Punch Man, and it's outstanding. It still takes a little getting used to reading right to left, but I mean, even black and white. I mean, these books are unbelievable. I feel like I want to go just to see what else there is, because I never read One Piece, or I don't know what's another good manga that I should read. What would
There's
you
a
recommend?
lot. That's the problem. It depends what you're into.
I'm into sort of superhero kind of stuff.
Superhero kind of stuff. There's not a lot of that. I mean, there's My Hero, but I don't recommend that. There's the original old school. If you want to go old school, there's Anpan Man, which is kind of like what One Punch Man is a parody of in a way. Any Sentai thing, they're mostly it's shows, but there's even a few Kamen Rider stuff. Those are all like, that's how Japan sees superhero. But you know, if you're looking for just like an adventure story that's kind of superheroic,
Yeah.
but right, one of my favorite manga is called Black Cat, and it's about these two guys. They're sweepers, which is just another term for bounty hunters. They go and they sweep up, right? And the main character of them, Train Hartnett, has this like past where he used to be an assassin before he was a sweeper, and he actually used to be like an elite assassin, part of this group of like 13 people. He even has like this orichalcum gun that he carries around with him from back in those days. And his past starts to catch up to them as they're trying to do their bounty hunting job, and it's just a really good tale. I highly recommend not watching the anime and actually reading the manga, because the anime sucks, but the manga's great.
Cool. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there, and you're not gonna get. You're gonna. What's weird? I can't understand the mentality. You read this book, and it's like it's an action adventure story.
Yeah.
I'm reading the book, and I'm in the world of this thing with of this city with the giant monsters and crazy powers and shit, and it's like, why would you ever read a book where a bunch of people sit around in a diner, a bunch of fat women sit around in a diner eating, talking about their oppression and all this bullshit? Like, it's insane.
Yeah.
Like, books like that, it's so easy. It's insane. Like, why would anybody want to read that shit? I don't understand. Nobody would. Nobody does.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Full Metal Alchemist
I
is
think
also a
I'll-
good one. Obviously, JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, but that's not for everyone. But it is very superheroic in many ways. Like, they're saving the world. People have powers. The things change wildly over the course of time.
Yeah.
But you want to know where your Barnes & Noble is? It's just above the 280 and 459 Mixmaster, just north of that.
Oh, did you look it up in Birmingham?
Yes.
Okay. Well, see, that's down on the. I have to get on the highway. All right, fine.
Yeah, but that's where it is.
I think it's over where the Best Buy used to be. Okay.
Probably.
The Best Buy moved, like, way far away. It's ridiculous.
It's right next to the Trader Joe's over there.
Thanks.
Or the PF Chang's.
Thanks.
I know you like PF Chang's. It's in the same parking lot as PF Chang's.
Oh, there's a bunch.
Yeah.
Wait. Are we talking about the Summit?
Yes.
Because the closest
It's
PF
in the
Chang's
Summit.
to me. Oh, it's in the Summit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's right down the street. That's like
Yeah.
2 minutes away. Jeez. I didn't even know. Thanks. I don't have to get on the highway. Okay, cool. Maybe I'll go there after this. See what they got.
I don't
Actually,
know.
I should because I bet
they're probably going to be closed. I don't know when they close. I don't know if they're one of those 9 or 10 stores.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up. Yeah, gosh, it's 9 o'clock. They're probably open till 10. I should probably go down there anyway. I wonder if there's a store somewhere where I can pick up an SD card.
Hmm.
So I don't have to order it from Amazon and wait. Oh, whoops. Okay. Sorry, I got an email from work. Something I forgot. As I mentioned, this is actually my first week as a full-time employee, and they wanted me to send them, unimportant things like ID documents, proof that I'm a citizen and all that stuff. I should probably get around to sending that.
Probably, yeah. But anyway. You know what? That's actually another reason why manga does so well, though. There are plenty of, like, what you call genre fiction in comics, but they're hard to find in the States, right? You see the big two are trying to use their characters to do other things like romance and slice of life, things that, like, their main audience just doesn't give a shit about. Mm-hmm. But, like, what's common is superhero stories. That's all you can find. Cape Comics. When it comes to, like, manga, or even you go over to Europe with, like, BDs and stuff, you can find a story in, like, any genre. If you want, like, a comedy story, you want an action story, you want a romance, whatever, it's there. And it's easy to get that stuff here, too, if you're just buying manga. And it's like, oh, I don't like manga, I don't like anime. It's like, why? It's because all you've ever seen was something from Shonen Jump and you're just not into, like, the stories you tell teenage boys. I'm sure there's something you would like. They're literally comics that are basically soap operas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like slice of life stuff isn't really my cup of tea, although I love the Uzaki-chan anime. Yeah. I thought it's hilarious. But yeah, if like, I mean, there's manga for everyone. Like they're always saying like, oh, that we want to bring in more women. There's plenty of manga available.
Oh yeah, like a very long running one. I think there's over like almost 500 chapters of it or something like that. It's a pretty long story that's been running for a while. It's called Boys Over Flowers, and it's a story of a poor girl whose family is living beneath their means to be able to send her to a wealthier high school. Because in Japan, you get to pick which school you go to, and your parents have to pay for the school. So there's like stuff that are basically cheap as fuck public entry, and then there's stuff that are like richier. Everything's basically a private school in Japan, right? And they're living well beneath their means. Like they could be living a slightly more comfortable life, but they're cramped in this small apartment that's only got one bedroom that's hers. The son and the parents all sprawl out in like the living room and stuff, and they're sending her to this really expensive high school. There's a big enough gap that they could send the son to the expensive high school after she graduates too. Like they're really putting their children forward by living this way. And
yeah,
she hates this kind of like rich, preppy mentality that a lot of these people have. Like she's kind of an outcast. She's got a friend there that she gets along with, but she like hates a lot of the boys and stuff. And she especially hates there's these 4 boys that are a very common theme, the princes of the high school, the one that all the girls want to go out with. They've got like really rich fathers and stuff. They're all like that Bishonen, cute twink look and stuff like that. Everybody wants to be with them, except for her. Yeah. But due to the weird circumstance of the school, now all like they're one of them and her, they actually kind of have like that tsundere jerk with the heart of gold relationship forming up. But now the other 3 want to be with her too because of that. And then this series just goes on for like a few hundred chapters of just bullshit. But it's like the type of stuff that women who are interested in that type of drama and stuff would be really, really interested in. So much that both Korea and Japan have made live action shows based off of this.
Yeah.
Like, there's a
And all
story
the
for everyone out
story
there.
is about. Yeah, even that though, the story is about that story. It's not. They don't inject like some sort of bizarre crowbarred in politics. They're not sitting around eating and talking about, whatever, oppression or whatever.
Well, they do talk a lot while sitting around with eating, but at least it's more interesting conversation. It's the drama that's actually going on in the show.
Yeah, they're talking about boys. Totally fails the Bechdel test or whatever.
Yeah. Or they're talking about how this teacher they hate or whatever. Like, anything they talk about, it actually advances the character itself, lets you know more of like, oh, so this is the personality of the character we're dealing with.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. When somebody
what's funny is
wants to
like
tell a fucking story.
Yeah.
Actually,
that's funny is like a lot of
recommendation, right? One of the most superhero-ass stories that Japan has, and a lot of guys in the West sleep on it, but it's actually a really good fucking story, is Sailor Moon. You don't get something that's more like superhero than Sailor Moon.
Yeah. Well, Lunar Archivist tweets a lot about Sailor Moon.
Oh, Sailor Moon is great. I love it.
Yeah. It looks interesting. I don't know. I don't know. I think Pro Jared ruined it for me. I'm like, oh god, I can't get into Sailor Moon now. I swear, I've been watching a few of his reviews because he has some really good reviews.
Oh yeah.
On everything, Final Fantasy and other stuff. I can't get it out of my mind. Whenever I see him, I'm like, oh my god.
Mercury.
Him in a Sailor Mercury's cosplay. I'm like, oh my god, I can't see anything else. I can't unsee it.
It's a very gay series. I'll let you know that, so that probably won't ruin your experience of it. It's a very gay series. Not in like the modern way that like comics have become gay, but like it's the way of like Japan. Just there's a lot of gay shit in there because like, well, those people exist, so we just kind of write it.
Yeah.
Like Japan's never had a problem with this type of like inclusion and diversity stuff. It's like, well, they exist, so of course they're gonna show up in the story.
Well, like gay men or gay women?
Well, there are 2 women that are gay, 2 of the sailors that are a couple, but they were dubbed and edited in the U.S. release of the show to make them cousins instead, to explain why they were living together.
Okay.
But there's also a group of sailors that I believe the sailor form is their actual form, so they are really women, but their disguise form, they're physically men. They were edited to be more of just like butch women in the 4Kids dub of it, but they're men that become women. Like it's a very gay series. But the series doesn't harp on any of this stuff, so you don't care at all. It's just this shit's there at all times.
Yeah. Well, that's how it should be. It should just be there. It shouldn't be like, hey, look, like, we're gay. Hey, look.
Yeah, Inuyasha, another one of my favorite ones. I love Inuyasha. That's almost like the opposite. Like Sailor Moon was a series written by a woman to appeal to boys. They were trying to get more boys to read their magazine because every boy just reads Shonen Jump. And Inuyasha is a story that was written by a woman for boys, but it was really to appeal more to girls. So it was like the opposite, right? And there's a character named Jikotsu who is a man, but you wouldn't be able to tell that Jikotsu's a man, and he has a thing for Inuyasha.
Okay.
And it's just a thing that's there. Doesn't, honestly, I watched this growing up. It's like, okay, that's just a thing. It doesn't harp on it or anything. It's just a part of the plot. It happens. It's a bad guy, and it's just like, whatever.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like with manga. It's like, this stuff's there. It doesn't bother you. It just works with the storytelling. Most of the time, the mangaka actually uses it for a plot device, and it actually matters You know, instead of just trying to like beat some weird moral into you.
Yeah. So before we go, should I go see Black Widow or not?
I'm gonna say no.
I feel like I should.
I'm also one that likes to see dumpster fires, so I can't say
I heard
no.
it's decent.
It might be decent.
I mean, I was watching
the trailer. The first one looked decent, but the more and more I saw about it, the worse and worse it looked as more stuff was coming out.
I've heard that the marketing does not do it justice. That they're marketing it in a way that may be a turnoff, oddly enough, but that the movie itself is okay. But I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
Anyway,
well, you'll see.
I might see.
Take one for the team.
Yeah. But it's 9. It's 9:03.
It is. And thank you, everyone, for watching or listening in the future. We appreciate whenever you come to watch the show. If you enjoy it, please share it with somebody else who might like the show. And if you really like it, consider giving a donation to streamlabs.com/Vomitorium live. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye. Bye.